here we are again. Managed to finish Aaron's Traveller. He's using it now before we go next Tuesday. It's now Saturday. I had planned to be hopefully working on this sort of Thursday, Friday, but Aaron's, as you'd expect, had a couple of little teething issues. Nothing major, but just things that I had to keep working on the car. The brakes are brand new, so I need to reset those up. So I just lost time. So today I've jumped onto this because I've been meaning to do this for a while. The radiator has always been a bit of a question mark. I use this car, by the way. It's a 1967 MG Midget, black with a red interior, factory colours. Had it about 15 years, and apart from when there's lots of salt on the road, I pretty much use it as, you know, almost a daily driver with the roof down. Never put it up, and it's proved very, very reliable. And Paul, by the way, who helped with the Traveller, built the engine for me again about 15 years ago, and it's never missed a beat. It's proven to be very, very reliable. The only thing is the radiator has just more recently, there's been a few little drops of blue antifreeze on the ground, and when I've just dismantled it so it can come out, whilst it looks reasonably okay there, apart from the usual dead flies and wasps and things, when you turn it around, we've got lots of failed fins, cooling fins. That wasn't really the problem, but what's happened somewhere here, don't know where it is, you can see this sort of old antifreeze bluey, it's just weeping from somewhere here. Also, for those who may know these things, there should be, I don't know why somebody's taken them off, there should be some cowling here, and somebody in the past, maybe they had overheating problems, decided to get rid of it. Anyway, because we're doing this trip to Angoulême and I'm not pottering around locally, I thought it was time to change the radiator, so I've got a new one. So here we are, here's one I made earlier. I actually got this from the MG Owners Club, which I'm a member of. I've got an account with Moss. They are pretty good, but I think the MG Owners Club are giving them a run for their money in terms of competitive prices, service, and not charging so much for postage, which Moss, if you buy a nut, they charge you £8.95, sadly I'm not using them so much. So this is the correct style radiator for this car. You can get aluminium aftermarket ones that are cheaper, but I like things to be standard. And I pointed out earlier that somebody had taken these fins off. I don't know why, because it actually helps the cooling. It helps draw the air through along with the fan. So it's quite important these are on. When you get something new like this, don't assume it's going to fit. From experience, it's best to spend a few minutes cleaning all the holes and making sure everything is ready to receive it, so you're not fighting it on the car. I've already had a little problem, which I'll show you what I'm going to do in a sec to sort of rectify it. Right, so these are little 7/16 threads. These are the first little issue I found. The bottom nuts are captive, so they don't move, and that's where they go in. The top ones are what's called sort of what I call it floating. So they're a nut that's captive inside a little box, which allows them to go up and down for, I presume, to help or fitting or adjusting height in the thing. I found these were stuck because what they do is they hit them with paint, and the paint just sticks them. So it's good to just get the little nut in the hole and give it a bit of oil and give it a wiggle, which I've done. It's now moving. And also the threads, they've got paint in them and they can be a little bit tight. So again, I'll run a bolt through it. I then found this one down here. I can't get a bolt to nicely start, and it looks like it's got a little. So I get a perfectly brand new bolt, and it's not nice. Don't know why. I haven't fitted this or anything. So in this instance, use as taps and dies. And you send this through. It's got a very shallow entry, so it won't pick up on the threads initially, and then it will hopefully. I can find my thin oil. I just add a bit of light oil just to help it. Send it in. You don't force anything. This will suddenly start cutting because further down it's got the threads. I can feel it now just starting to cut. Feels okay actually, it doesn't feel too bad. I don't know why it's not starting, but this will clean those threads out without forcing them too much. It only takes a tiny little burr somewhere and it won't work. And then if you're doing that on the car, you'll be forever fighting it and you'll be wondering what the hell's going on. And by the end of it, you'll be throwing the radiator in anger over your shoulder. It's still a bit tight, if I'm honest. I'm just going to give that a little bit of a... Yes, okay, that's it. You have to get it in a good few turns so you don't cross thread it. You know you've definitely got it. That's gone in. In fact, it's gone right through the bolt. And with this, I don't use a little power one and run them up gently. Bit more oil. Oh, that's just me being clumsy and tired. There we are. So that's now going up by hand, where before I couldn't even start it. So a little bit of preparation saves an awful lot of hassle, I think is the moral of the story. The other thing to, by the way, again, make sure this is where the thermostat temperature sender goes in. Before you put that in the car, make sure that goes in. I've done it earlier, I haven't done it with the camera, but I've sent that in gently, made sure it's working again before it goes in the car in case there's a problem. So yeah, this thing's now ready to go in. And it initially will just drop, hopefully, straight in. That's it roughly in, but I've got 4 locations that it needs to bolt into. I don't know what other people are like, but I've always got tools that you have for specific jobs that you like, and it's almost like, oh, I know, I need the little screwdriver. Or in this case, and I have this little Draper one, tiny little thing, little 3mm. I lost it, and I felt lost without it. So I bought another one. I've been working on Aaron's car for 8 weeks, and I had done something on my Midget prior to that. I just done the radiator. I took the grill off and found that inside the grill area. So I have 2 now. With Aaron's Traveller, we filled it up with mineral oil for the engine, same mineral oil, engine oil for the gearbox, and for the diff, mineral gear oil EP90. Well, this is 1890. Something I wasn't so aware of was GL4. GL4 is good to, looks after bronze bearings, which the A series cars have. I changed my diff oil earlier this year with this trip in mind. I wasn't sure if it was that, so I'm going to do that again today for my car. I just drained it out again. It takes just under a litre. I like to measure it. This is a ½ litre cup. Doesn't have to be accurate because there is a little where you fill up as well on the diff. When it starts to flow out, you've basically filled it, but it's quite nice to know that what's going in. I use one of these suction guns. If you look at it, the oil will disappear. Excuse me. And then off we go to the diff. Okay, so I've already drained the oil. It wasn't that old, I say I did it earlier in the year, but the EP90 I used, I wasn't sure it was that GL4, so I was only doing a little local mileage, but as this trip could be something like a couple of thousand miles, I think it's a good idea to get exactly the right stuff in. So this is ½ litre going in. As I say, it takes just under a litre. It will go down into the half shaft areas and start filling up the banjo, and then when it starts dribbling out of this fill point, that's it basically full. Looks like honey. It doesn't taste like honey. Excuse me. So this will this time probably start dribbling out. That little dribble isn't, that's just coming out from me filling it up. That's not proper overflow. This tool, by the way, is a Draper tool, and it's brilliant. For doing the gearboxes as well, it's perfect. So that's it flowing. That's it overflowing now. That's perfect. I'm just going to let that come out a little bit because it's probably a little bit too full, if anything. Just let that find its level a little bit. It's amazing when you drain these diffs, if you're doing it for somebody else's cars, quite often there's not even half a litre in them because they leak on the front nose quite regularly. I think that will do it for me. Let me do a wipe. It's an old Whitworth size. He says confidently, yeah, there it is. That's it. Job done. Over the years, something that I've picked up on that just helps me. If you're putting something new on, putting hoses on, if they're newish hoses, then they can be a little bit stubborn. I get a little bit of fairy up washing up liquid, and just put it around the pipe where the hose, and put a little bit inside the hose. When you're down below trying to fit it, where you've got very limited room, it helps it slide on. The thing with putting these radiators back in, the top bolt goes through a support stay and it's in a heat shield, and then it goes into the radiator. So you've got three things effectively to line up to get that little 7/16 bolt through, and it's a pain in the butt. Right, that's that in. Haven't got the radiator in yet, just getting the bolt started. Oh, come on. Right, that's the two top ones started, and they're the hardest ones. See how the bottom ones go. This is something that I can't live without, which is this array of boxes or trays, storage trays, which has basically got the three main sizes of bolts on pretty much all the BMC stuff, Midgets, Morris Minors, MGBs, things like that, and I've got them in all the lengths, all the washers, spring, flat and nylox. And whenever I do any work on any car, if there's a bit of age to any of them, I just throw them over my shoulder, put them in the bin. And if I'm doing somebody else's car, I definitely do that, and then it just makes the whole process much easier to put everything together. And if you work on it again, it's a nice experience, putting things apart that are brand new that you do with your fingers. When I was a kid, I used to work on cars with my dad, and we used to use old nuts and bolts all the time, clean them up, and it was a fight. And I vowed never to be doing that. So I get from a supplier these big bags of like 200 bolts are only like £10. So they last you a long time, and it's just nice to have them. That's my problem. I can't see the holes. Pull these ones up at the front. I'll give it a go. That's started. That's nice. I was just mentioning earlier about rubbers and putting them onto pipes. I'm in exactly that situation here where I've just tried putting this on without doing that, exactly what I said I normally do, and it really struggled to go on. So I'm just going to prove a point hopefully here. I can only get it on about 1 centimetre. That's about where I want it, and that's about 2 centimetres. Well, I literally couldn't do that a minute ago. Well, that actually went reasonably smoothly, because these 4 bolts you've got here, you've got 3 panels effectively. The radiator itself, a stay, and a whatever we call these plates here. So it's a bit of a faff to get them in, but they went in. So the radiator's now bolted in. I've got to put the hoses on top and bottom, attach the thermostat, temperature gauge thermostat sender, and then fill out with some fresh antifreeze. Right, let me get my 5/8 spanner. That's it. Oh, this one needs doing as well. I thought I'd done them up, both up. Obviously not. That's why it's good to have a final little check, because I'd missed that. So the antifreeze I'm using is just the traditional blue antifreeze summer coolant, perfectly good for an old A series engine. The only thing I do is I do quite a strong mix. People don't realise it, it does actually help. It's called antifreeze, but it does also keep the engine running cooler. So I think they normally say about 20%, 25%, but I tend to go a little bit more, sort of 30, 40. Pretty impressive. I forgot I pulled a lead off earlier, so it fired up on 3. Well done you. Let's go again. This one for the Midget, at least it's a bit shorter now, but I've got to check the gearbox oil. The headlamp notices it's moving, and the steering gate I've just discovered has got a split in it, like I need a hole in the head with that. SU carburetors, a Midget has 2, Morris Minors have 1. This is the damping piston for funny enough, the piston that's in there, and they do fire out the oil that's in there quite a lot, so it's good to keep an eye on and top them up. SU do produce their own oil, which would no doubt be the right stuff, the perfect stuff, but I've always used a light oil, in this case 3-in-1. You hear all sort of weird and wonderful things, people putting engine oil in and stuff like that, but that's completely, in my opinion, from having read SU books, that is not what you do. So it's got to be a light oil. If you overfill it, it doesn't matter, because it will there's little breather holes in the top of these little black caps, and it'll push it out, and that's when you'll see a bit of oil on your bonnet underneath. The other thing is, my dad used to say, never push these too hard. Let them go down in their own time. Just literally a little bit of finger pressure. But not too much. So that's, before I put this oil in, it didn't have this resistance, so it was a little bit low. That just helps the smooth running of the carburetors and therefore the engine. When you check the oil in the gearbox, and there's I think it's a 5/8 nut, aluminium, or steel going into aluminium, that's accessed through a little side hole in the side of the gearbox tunnel, and there's not so much getting it off. You can get that, and that always drops down, but it's putting it back in can be a bit tricky, and I've got a little ninja trick to show you. So the inspection bung for a Midget is on the side. The gearbox is the same for a Morris Minor as well, which we've been working on. I haven't got it. What I'll do is I'll show you what I do, which is I put grease, I pack the socket up with grease. I don't want to get some, I haven't actually done it. Get a good dollop of just bog standard grease, put it on your socket. And what happens now is, when you pull the little bung out, he says famously as it falls, it sticks onto your socket. Now that's, taking it out you can do it and it'll just fall on the floor. Putting it in, this is a little godsend, because they forever drop. But that little packed piece of grease in there, you can almost, there you go, upside down, and obviously when you put it in, just give it a little wipe off, get rid of all the residue grease. I'm going to just check my gearbox oil and see what we're doing. So again, with like the differential, to actually measure the quantity you're putting in, which I think is about 1.5 litres in the gearbox, could be wrong, don't quote me on that. A similar principle, you keep filling it up until eventually it starts drooling out the fill hole, and that's its natural level, so you don't have to measure it. And then here's my little trick upside down. In we go. Get it started. There we are. No drama. First time. No effing and jeffing. That's the gearbox oil checked. So I've got 3 things now on the car. Tonneau cover, put a new popper on it. The headlamp's rattly, and the steering gauge I've just discovered has got a split on it. But that's not the end of it. At the start of this list, this is the things to bring. So spares, tools. What else have I got here? Yeah, basically, yeah, jump leads, tow rope, some fuel line, Jubilee clips, electrical tools, torch and a charger, some oil, some rad weld. Although I put a new radiator, we're all going in classic cars, you know, water, some antifreeze, cable ties, spare fuel pump, points, cap, map, that'd be useful. Some fuses, temperature gun, feeler gauges, spare plugs, leads, carburetor bits, and a fuel can.